So, have you ever wondered what the real difference is between a casual promise you make to a friend and a deal that's, legally binding? Like, why can you get sued for backing out of one agreement, but not another? Well, we're going to dive right into that and unpack the legal magic that turns a simple promise into a powerful contract.
This is the big question, isn't it? It's really the difference between a friendly, hey, I'll pay you back, and a statement that a court can actually enforce. Stick with me, because by the end of this, you're going to know exactly where that line is drawn. The first thing to get is that contracts aren't just for huge corporations or these super complicated legal documents. You're actually a contract-making machine. Seriously. Every single time you buy a coffee, pay for a taxi, or even just click that Buy Now button online, yep, you're entering into a contract. So, what's the official definition? It's actually beautifully simple. A contract is just a promise that the law will back up. It's an agreement that has legal teeth, turning it from just words into an obligation you have to follow. This image here is just a perfect way to think about it. Just like these skydivers, a contract is all about different people, or parties, coming together for a common goal. Everyone has a specific, enforceable role to play. It's all about that mutual agreement for a shared result.
Okay, so before we get into what makes a contract solid, we need to understand the basic rules of the game. There are 3 big principles that kind of set the stage for every single contract out there.
First up, you've got freedom of contract. This pretty much means you can agree to almost anything, as long as it's not illegal, of course. Next, there's the sanctity of contract, which is just a fancy way of saying a deal is a deal. Once you make it, the law expects you to honor it. And finally, there's privity of contract. This one's super simple. The agreement only binds the people who actually made it. You can't force your neighbor to honor some deal you made with your cousin. All right, now for the main event. I want you to think of a valid contract like a recipe for a cake. You can't just throw a bunch of stuff in a bowl and hope for the best, right? You need 5 specific, essential ingredients for it to work. If you miss just one, well, you don't have a contract. So what's the magic number of ingredients we need? It's 5, not 4, not 6. 5 essential elements that absolutely have to be there. Let's break them down, one by one. So everything kicks off with an offer. This is step 1. It's where one person basically lays their cards on the table and makes a clear proposal to someone else. It's that, hey, will you buy my car for $10,000 moment. Now, an offer just hanging out there in the air is pretty useless. It needs acceptance. This is the other person saying, yes, I agree to your proposal, exactly as you stated it. No changes, no new conditions, just a clear, straight-up yes. That's the moment a potential deal becomes a real one. Okay, now we get to a really crucial ingredient, consideration. This is what makes a contract a two-way street. It's why a simple promise to give a gift usually isn't a contract, because nothing is coming back the other way. Consideration is the exchange. Each side has to give and get something of value. It could be money, a service, or even a promise to not do something. It's basically the price everyone pays to be in the deal. Your rent payment, for instance, that's your consideration for getting to live in your apartment. This one is so important. For a promise to actually become a contract, both people have to intend for it to be a serious, legally enforceable agreement. This is what separates a business deal from, a casual promise you make to a friend over dinner. And that brings us to the classic question, right? If you promise a friend you'll buy them lunch and then you totally forget, can they sue you? Well, the answer is almost always no. And why? Because neither of you intended for that casual promise to be a legally binding contract. There was no intention to create legal relations. So we've got an offer, we've got acceptance, we've got consideration, and we've got intention. We're almost there. But there's one final check we have to make, and it's all about who is making the deal in the first place. The 5th and final ingredient is capacity. This just means the people making the agreement have to be legally able to do so. The law gets that not everyone is in a position to really understand the consequences of a contract. So, who has capacity? Well, generally speaking, adults and legal entities like companies, they're good to go. But the law protects certain groups by saying they lack the capacity to make a contract. This usually includes minors, people who are considered mentally incompetent, and in some situations, people who are severely intoxicated. It's all about making sure vulnerable people aren't locked into deals they don't fully understand. So there you have it, the secret recipe is out. And the most empowering part is realizing this isn't just some abstract legal theory. It's a framework you use every single day, giving you the power to make deals that stick. All right, let's put it all together real quick. The big takeaway here is that contracts are everywhere, and they're really just promises the law will enforce. But, and this is a big but, for that to happen, you need the full recipe. You've got to have a clear offer and a firm acceptance. There must be consideration, that exchange of value. Both sides need the intention to make it a serious deal. And finally, everyone involved needs the legal capacity to make the agreement. All 5 have to be there. No exceptions. Now that you know the 5 ingredients, what common interaction, maybe buying your morning coffee, agreeing to a freelance project, or even just clicking I agree on a software's terms and conditions, will you look at with a brand new perspective?